Do people with BPD hurt and traumatize people? Yeah, they do. Do they always do it knowingly or on purpose? No, because they're not all the same. But what is with not just the echo chamber, the narrative across all of social media that's unhelpful to most of you out there who might still feel, quote, addicted, unquote, to that borderline, and you can't get away, or you don't know how to get away, or you can't stop ruminating, and your life gets focused around them. Why is that? Well, people need to take their codependency much more seriously and find out what that really means. And it's nothing to do with Codependence Anonymous and stuff like that. And the bottom line is, you've been victimized by a person with BPD, more than likely, for sure, traumatized, re-traumatized, because you are stuck where you're stuck because of what you don't know or don't acknowledge or isn't in your conscious awareness yet about your childhood woundedness. These two things are connected for every single person who gets in a relationship with anybody with any cluster B personality disorder. It's just a fact. They're patterns, toxic patterns on both sides in these relationships with borderlines, but that's not to say that codependents are doing what borderlines are doing, or that you are anything like a person with BPD. But what you need to know now, and I'm always saying, like keeping it real here to help you heal, which is true. Bottom line is, what you need to know now is your answers aren't coming from the borderline. Your answers aren't coming from some things that people need to know more about. I help clients with one-to-one sessions. If you're interested, if you resonate with me, go to hamahari.ca, book a session. Point is, I can really help you out with this. But you have to be willing to want to really help yourself out. And what does that look like? And what does that mean? Because so many people out there, until they learn more or until they do work with somebody, and be careful who you choose, you just can't stop focusing on the borderline. And you think everything is the borderline's fault. There's a lot that the borderlines are responsible for. Yes. We're not making any excuses for their behavior, their inability to relate, for their lack of self. The person with BPD is not the all-good person or the person that you met and or fell in love with. They're not that person. And they're also not the really awful, bad, discarding, ghosting, yelling, screaming, or silent treatment, giving you silent treatment. They're not the all bad part either, because they're neither, and you don't know who they are. But you're still stopping your life and actively contributing unconsciously and unintentionally to your own victimization. Now, I say that meaning clearly to delineate what you might be doing that you don't realize it's making you hurt more, be traumatized more, and be more victimized. So you're becoming more of a victim. You're not getting out of it. You're not getting into a healing process because you're all focused on the person with borderline personality disorder and how to learn about it. And some people want to become master experts in it. I think I am one of those people who's a master expert in it, but you know what? That happened for me not only through education, but through lived experience on both sides of this cluster B fence and with codependency and etc. And to the degree that maybe I know some things that other people find hard to grasp or whatever, I'm not saying I know everything better than everybody. It's something that I do know and I can help people with. So I work with clients. I'm here to work with you if I resonate with you. But it's not something that you need to know. It really isn't. Because the answers that you need, the closure that you need, the healing that you need, you have the power to do that in working with someone like myself. But people keep on focusing on the borderline. People keep on choosing to believe that the borderline had all this control over you. And in some ways they do. At times when you don't know what BPD is and you don't have a clue what's going on. But after you know and you still, like so many people, no judgment, and with empathy I say to you, And so many people are still recycling these relationships. And so many people are still wanting to find a way to go forward with, getting married. I've had clients in the last recent times, they've gone through all kinds of work, but maybe just didn't quite get enough of it done, but they did really well. And then they've gone on and they met someone and it seems all exciting, and yet there's so many red flags, because sometimes people will talk to me about who they're seeing now, and or I will meet that person. And I've had clients in the last little while that they just met the next one in spite of the work they were doing, because they just might have approached it a bit too soon. They ignored red flags again. A few of them now have a child with the next borderline they met. And when you're a man and you're with a borderline woman still, in most of the world, legally, if you have a child with a borderline woman, whether you're, not married or married, doesn't matter. Men, you barely stand a chance in many, many of these cases. And courts just hear women. And the gynocentrism of, devolving culture all around the world, or in the Western world, is definitely like, oh, little child should be with mom. Well, not when mom's a freaking untreated borderline. So, if you've dodged that bullet so far and you haven't had a child with, or as a woman, a child with a man with BPD, what are you still doing there? What are you trying to prove? It is the helplessness in codependency that people don't want to admit, that you're trying to control things externally. And with a borderline who you can't control anyway, and you can't rescue and you can't fix them. So the bottom line is, why do you think, I bet nobody leaves a comment under this, but if you do, please, if you're inclined to, what do you think is driving you to still focus on that person that you are so in love with after all they've done to you? And not only all that the borderline's done to you, but all they've repeated that in some way, shape, or fashion, to some degree, is related to your childhood woundedness. These are just solidly known patterns, ladies and gentlemen. And so many people are hurting for so much longer, ruminating, feeling addicted to the borderline, agonizing, needing them back for this reason, that reason, the other reason. This is supposed to be your soulmate. This is supposed to be your twin flame. This is supposed to be the person you're with. And when you have childhood woundedness, a lot of people, interject things that they're not consciously aware of. Like, you might have learned that you had to fight to try to be seen and heard by a parent or parents. You had to fight or try hard or people please or give extra, as a child, to try to get your needs met. This is what's repeating in these relationships. This is why you're stuck. But when I say that as a complete sentence, it's not going to change anything for you right now. You may know some of this intellectually. You may know a lot intellectually. But until you work with somebody, and again, I'm out here, if you resonate with me, to work with you to help you get out of this. It might feel impossible, but it's not impossible. It's only impossible as long as you continue to think it's all the borderline, and that you still love this person who's hurting you badly in many, many different ways, to say the least. What is that love? What is that rumination? It's a trauma bond and a fantasy bond, words that are easy to say. The healing, will you shush, Grace? The healing is what you need to get into the process of. And it starts ever so slowly with you beginning to realize there's somebody else in this relationship, or on and off relationship, or you've been discarded or ghosted. Somebody else other than the borderline that has all the control, other than the borderline that's all important, other than the borderline that you love and you need to be with, and you just gotta have them. No, there's lost you. There's crushed you. There's abandoned you. There's people who don't even know who they are anymore. Why does it take so long for so many to focus on that and to make a choice to work with somebody and to start to work through a process that, like, no, it's not fun. And yes, part of it is very painful, but you got to heal yourself. And you got to heal yourself not only from the borderline, not only from what's happening now or what's happened recently, or maybe it was quite a while ago, but you got to heal yourself from the childhood woundedness. You know, some of life is precious, and a lot of life is hard to understand, and life isn't fair, and everything's devolving around the world. And no matter your age, because of the state of the world, nobody knows how much time they have. I mean, nobody does anyway. But the bottom line is, are you really prepared to waste more of your precious life and the reason that you're here and who you really are, that you don't know who that is right now or anymore? Are you willing to waste more of that for the borderline, who needs at least 15 years worth of treatment in the right modality with a good fit of a therapist, if they even can handle it? Because borderlines can't handle the truth. They are damaged. It's not just all genetic. It's not all about evil. So if you're somebody still hanging in there because you love that person so much, leave a comment and tell me, who are they? How do you know you love them? Are you, if you have childhood woundedness, you probably learned something about a really toxic, unhealthy style of love, quote, or what's not really love. And people are just, I don't know, so wayward, so lost, and so fighting to get the borderline back. Men with borderline women, women with borderline men, lesbians with borderline women, gay men with gay borderline men, and everything in between, So have you ever asked yourself, who is this person that you love? Because it's a fantasy bond and you don't know who they are. And you might not understand the unconscious replication that in codependency people have these patterns, very toxic patterns, of getting with people unconsciously that end up having BPD or NPD, that are going to replicate a lot of your pain in your childhood woundedness. And that's what's going on. So it's not all about the borderline. It's not all about the narcissist. In the beginning, when you don't know what it is, yeah, sure it is. We're not excusing your behavior at all. But why would you keep going back for more? That's what people do. They make a decision every day for all kinds of different feelings and reasons, and without consciously knowing self and what your childhood woundedness is, maybe, perhaps. Many people don't know. Some people have ideas, but they just don't want to go there because it hurts. And you're looking for that big, like, amazing feeling the borderline or even a narcissist may have given you in the beginning. It's not coming back. And if it seems like it's coming back, it's not real. Your childhood woundedness is leading you around by the nose way more than the borderline or the narcissist is. I hope some people might find this helpful. I hope you might think about it, not just dismiss it outright because it's not what you want to hear. It's definitely what I know people need to hear. Stop focusing on the borderline. Focus on you. You might not know who you are anymore. You might not have ever known. You might feel really lost. You can't stop ruminating about them. You are in a living nightmare. But there's only one way out. Stop focusing on them and start focusing on you. And yeah, that means how much you hurt. That means how out of control you feel. That means how helpless you feel over all this because you just want what you think you need and you want to control it so you can have it so you won't hurt anymore. But the borderline didn't start your pain. It started in your childhood and they added to it. What are you going to do about that today for yourself? You really, really need to get into working with someone, and I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you. You really need to take this journey. Really at least try, even if you're still 100% recycling with the borderline, on, off, communicating, fighting, doing all the same stuff over. Because don't you realize by now, and lots of people don't, so no judgment, you're not going to get anywhere. And even if you get them back, it's going to all go around the same circle. They're just cycles. And then you're just going to be spit out again, and in agony again, and lost again, only more lost and more hurt. What people with codependency often don't know in these situations is that you actually have some autonomy, none over the borderline. But if you start to look at yourself, if you want to learn how to regulate your own emotions, and if you want to learn why you're so hooked into this borderline, so focused on the borderline, or maybe a few, like you've been through a few of these relationships, you've got to look at you. And does that hurt? Yeah. But is it worth it? I would say yes, 100%. So all over the internet, we see all about what borderlines do, and they do a lot of everything people say. And they affect you in these horrible ways. Fair enough. And the next thing you know, it just seems like it's all their fault, and you haven't done anything, and you're not like them, so how could you have any responsibility for this? Abandoning yourself, ignoring yourself, not having enough self-esteem and self-worth, not caring about yourself, in fact, maybe not even liking yourself. You continue to subject yourself to the borderline because you don't know how to deal with you. And when I say that, I mean it with great empathy, because you didn't learn as a child how to deal with you. Because so many people who get in these relationships with borderlines, and so many people who are stuck in the trauma bond, the fantasy bond, the betrayal bonds of it all. You had the fantasy bond, the trauma bond, the betrayal bond of it all in your childhood. And you're repeating patterns of your own that maybe wouldn't repeat with somebody who doesn't have a cluster B personality disorder, but that's where you find yourself. Why do you think you continue to choose, if you relate to this, to not look at you, to not get yourself in therapy? And in that work, I answer millions of questions, literally. I've answered trillions of questions from clients over the last 32 years. I've been online 36 years doing this work with people about the borderline, about the narcissist, about cluster B, about what's driving all of that. It's not, for me anyways, it's not that difficult to understand that inside out and to the nines. And maybe you need to understand that more too. I do answer, like I said, trillions of questions. And I'm happy to listen to people's experience with the borderline, what's going on right now, wherever you are. But then we have to start focusing on you. You need to first choose to focus on you just a little bit. Maybe you still want to talk about the borderline and what's going on, and that's okay. I'm very client-centered. Clients get to drive the sessions and talk about what they want. I don't tell you what to talk about or what to do. But please hear me when I say, you and you alone, as a codependent, feeling totally out of control, in agony, and just ruminating and stuck totally on the focus and blaming the borderline 100% for everything you feel, for everything that's not happening the way you wanted it to in your life. Really painful stuff. But you do have autonomy. You're trying to control everything outside of yourself. How about getting into therapy to focus on you and learn how to control what's going on inside of you? Because that's all any of us can have control over. Take care.